Love Joy.
And hold on, I got it. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chief Delegate meeting. Well, not back to, but to Chief Delegate meeting. Oh, I'm gonna start over. That's just weird.
I'm gonna have to keep that. It's too funny. I'm just kidding.
Okay, come back to something you. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chief Delegate meeting number 18. I believe we're on 18. And,
we're legal.
What was that?
We are legal.
We're legal?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The drink?
We can now vote and go to war on your behalf. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we're one person down today. John is not yet here. Maybe he'll make an appearance at some point. Something's keeping him from us. Probably stuck at a kangaroo crossing or something. I only say that because I know he's had kangaroos in his backyard before, not just because he's Australian. We have a very light schedule today. Next week is going to be jam-packed with all sorts of exciting stuff to discuss, but this week it's just kind of, yeah, it's a light news week. There's a few things we can touch on though, so we'll get to those in a bit. Chris, you want to start us off with any updates?
Yeah, it might spin us into more conversation perhaps, but the biggest event that's sort of going on is finishing up this new DAO Proxy thing that's going to be announced next week on Tuesday, and it's it's using the EDEN process as part of its membership, and so there'll be fractal elections or political playoff elections to select a committee that are like sort of and they'll have a particular purpose in the committee. And there's a light paper that's coming out with that, and so we'll be interviewing one of the main guys behind it. And yeah, so that's a lot happening on that front, and I look forward to maybe we can talk more about it today after we go through the updates, and of course next week.
Cool. All right. Aaron, how are you doing?
Doing all right. Nearing the finish line with this never-ending treadmill of papers, which there's some cool quality onboarding stuff that has come out of this research that I'm going to be excited to share. I know it's outside of a lot of what I've talked about with the onboarding stuff to help EDEN and other EOS apps, but it's been nice to put a really heavy spotlight on this problem and just really start thinking about what needs to be resolved to make it so that, you know, if you're talking to someone about something that involves EOS and they want to get started, that there's a clear path forward for that person. That's not, here's a flaming hoop that you have to jump through. So that's kind of where we're at. I feel like the next week or so is kind of our final stretch. I know we were just talking about it, how next week we'll have a lot more to talk about. I don't know if I'll have read a lot of it yet, but hopefully by this time next week, I can kind of say, hey, I finished, my part's done, and I'm back on normal stuff like from before this process started. So I'm ready for it to be concluded.
Are you even going to know what to do with yourself?
No, I'm not. I don't remember what I did before this.
All right, well,
I know what's coming up, so
yeah, don't worry, the community will remind you what you need to do. Yeah,
they'll go shopping and make out a shopping cart of all the cool ideas that come out in these papers, and then that sets the path forward. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, cool. Jesse, what have you been up to?
Hey everyone, got some cool stuff to share for my update today, but first I will give an update on the various influencers that we're talking to and I'm noticing. So I think I mentioned last time that we are developing a relationship with 3 influencers, one in Uganda Hive, or in Uganda, one in the Spanish Hive and one in the Turkish Hive. And I can, we're using community funds, so I'm going to share some of like a little bit of the details that we're working with. So the Turkish influencer, 10,000 followers on Twitter. We're going to be doing a podcast with him, with our Turkish Princess Bee for $200 USD. The person in Uganda has 130,000 followers on Twitter, and he is building a team of 10. We're paying him 320 EOS for the month. It's going to be a month-long campaign. It's going to be 2 either videos or podcasts. I'm going to be on there, as well as one of the worker bees in the Luganda hive. His followers do not know about crypto. So we're going to kind of dividing this into 2. The first part of it is going to be, what is blockchain, what is crypto, what is Bitcoin, what is EOS, with EOS wallet and EOS giveaways. So an incentive to set up an EOS wallet. And then the next part is going to be about DeFi. We're going to do some really simple DeFi 101 stuff. And then from the Spanish hive is an influencer. I'm not going to give the names yet. We'll come out with the specific names when the content comes out. But in the Spanish hive, we have an influencer with 75,000 subs on YouTube. That's going to be a 20-minute piece. The first 10 minutes is going to be kind of like an EOS news, hitting all the major kind of news spots. And the latter 10 minutes is going to be an interview with our Chebs, our Princess Bee of the Spanish hive. That is going to be for $1,000 USD. So yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing there. I'm going to share my screen now. So yesterday was you're unable to connect to Zoom. Am I?
We can see it and hear you and see you.
Why did it say that?
I can just see some tweet.
All right, cool. So you guys are seeing it. Cancel. All right. So yesterday was a really interesting day for influencers. Now, these influencers I'm about to show are like technical analysis trading influencers, and they come and go for EOS. Like the price doesn't perform, everyone EOS price, they leave, and different ones come back. So I noticed 3 new ones yesterday. Something happened yesterday. So here's the first one. This Professor Atrones.
Oh yeah.
180,000 followers. I'm going to give an update on swarms. We swarmed this one, paid swarm. Here's one, 48,000. And here is, okay, Bombshell, I like EOS, 140,000. So these are big trading influencers that have recently found EOS. So the comments, the EOS community, and not just the bees, but the EOS community did a really good job of neutralizing some of the negativity in these comments, promoting good stuff around EOS. So like really good job for the community in with these posts. So I was really happy to see that. So I'm just trying to think the next thing to talk about. So the swarms, I'll talk about the swarms. So again, this guy here, we're swarming using the tip.cc bot from Discord. We are still trying to get the kinks out the best way to do it, but we had 55 bees participate, and we paid a total of 20 EOS, so about 0.36 EOS per like and retweet. And I am very much trying to go off of, I agree what Dan had said some call ago, that you want to overpay in the beginning. And so I really want to incentivize this behavior. I'm trying to pay like pretty good for a very simple like and retweet. So that's what's going on there. And for the last piece of my update, I have 2 pieces of content. So this week, the Korean Hive really had a great week coming out with content around Fractally. We're getting ready for the white paper. And so one has already come out with, we'll listen to the first 30 seconds of it. And the other one I'm going to show you is completely new. And I hope the creator doesn't mind me sharing, but there's this one part of it, or there's this one part in it that to me, okay, this needs to like a major change. And I want to see if you guys and the rest of the community also are thinking the same thing that I'm thinking with this. So here we go.
Hello, little girl. Did you know you can now do whatever you want with EOS? Want to know how? Yes, you do. Introducing Fractally. Whether that be creating art, marketing, coding, or developing something entirely new, you can make your dreams a reality with EOS.
Now, Mari, that's a Korean creator that did that?
Yeah, she's a British woman in the Korean Hive. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the first one. And let me just show you this real quick. Just first 30 seconds. It's a song. So we had a newbie come on in the Korean Hive. He's a composer. I mean, or whatever. He's a musician, and we're getting an EOSB's account on Emanate. That's going to be our first piece of content on Emanate. And but I do want to go back and so let me just tell you guys what I think, and I'm going to play it one more time. And so the narrator obviously is a computer. And me personally, I think it would be a lot better with a real British man narrating this.
Hello, little girl. Did you know you can now do whatever you want with EOS? Want to know how? Yes, you do. Introducing Fractally.
Are you
Oh, you want? You heard it. You know,
yeah.
Not necessarily need to play the whole thing again, but so
I thought you were just worried that she was falling out of the cloud for a while, but it's the voice that you don't like.
I'll finish it.
Whether that be creating art, marketing, coding, or developing something entirely new, you can make your dreams a reality with EOS.
And is this something that is going to be run by the Fractally team, or is it just like
not necessarily? They don't even know about it until now.
But, they've already got fan creators just creating with their logo different things. They might, I don't know what they'll make of it, but I like it. I think it's kind of cute. I don't even mind the robot voice.
What'd you say?
I said I don't even mind the robot voice, but I can see the appeal of an actual.
Anyways, so message me in the comments or whatever. What do you think about the voice? I want to know from the community. And that's and the very last part of my update, as I stop sharing my screen, is that I defeated Eve in the EOS quiz. Took him down, and super proud about that. And maybe next week, Eve.
And those are happening Fridays, yeah? At like
in the Fridays 20:00 UTC. Yana puts on an EOS quiz where you not only have to get the right answer, but if you get it quicker than others, you get more points. And it was a bit of a controversial ending.
Yeah.
I got a little lucky, I'll admit, but yeah, it was good to see my spot, my name in the #1 spot there.
And if people want to participate, that's in the EOS community Discord, right?
Yes.
And where do you go in the Discord to get into the games?
In the voice chat, like where the fireside chat is.
Cool. And all right, got the time, we got the place, Fridays. That's tomorrow, folks. you can be the next, you can beat Jesse tomorrow, unseat the champion.
I think that'll maybe be my last one. I don't know.
Yeah, retire on top. Smart.
I think they were gonna play a different game maybe anyway, but
No, it's always the EOS quiz, and then so the week I
Oh.
went, it was EOS quiz, and then we played poker, and that game shuffles the game after the quiz.
So Jesse, I have a follow-up question for you about some of the work that you're doing with the EOSBs, if that's cool.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten to Randall yet. Don't worry, Randall. We're coming to you next for your update. But I think a lot of people in the community don't really realize. I know it was kind of a surprise to me, because we always talk about the 3 major language groups being, I mean, it seems just kind of spoken of a lot, that it's like Chinese, English, Korean, and Spanish. But Spanish isn't really, could you give us the actual order in terms of speakers and usership of EOS? Because it's surprising.
Well, I do think the top 3 is English, Chinese, and Korean.
Okay.
And I put that maybe in the first tier. And in the second tier, to me, it's clear that it's Spanish, Vietnamese, and Turkish as the second tier. And
Okay.
below that, Russian, German, and French would be the tier below that. And then, yeah.
Could you give us a sense for the relative difference in tier 2? Like how do the Spanish and Turkish communities compare in just total numbers, for instance? And there was one other group you mentioned, Vietnamese. Like how do they stack up next to each other?
Yeah, it's tough to compare like the actual numbers. You can look at Telegram groups. You can look at Twitter followers. You can look at like the hashtag EOS and like the languages there. But it's just kind of a general feeling. Like it just it feels to me that it's like, for example, the Spanish, the Vietnamese, and the Turkish have like really decently active communities. And so I can't really give you like hard numbers.
Relative strength. That's all right. All right, cool. Maybe we can follow up more. I have more questions about the composition of EOS community overall, but maybe we should.
Yeah, for sure.
Round to Randall. Randall's, what's your what's going on, Randall? How you doing?
So pretty good. So your support, we've been helping with building a notification to reach out to exchanges and customers that are using the EOS.io software, because we are trying to position ourselves so that in a couple of months we will possibly upgrade to Mandel. Hopefully we can do it nice and flawlessly without any issues, but that's what we are working on. I'm helping out with that. That's one. Number 2 is we created a Twitter account. It's called EOS Network DAO. All right.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah, EOS Network DAO. So the narrative is going to be to try and paint EOS to be mostly focused on creating DAOs, like a network that's mostly focused on creating DAOs. So the ENF has shown support for that. And the goal is to see where we can go with that. Right now, EOS support is a little bit tied up with so many things. So, but the idea is at some point we create another website. We're gonna have so many different websites. It doesn't matter what it is, but to create a website that will depict EOS being like a DAOs on DAOs. So So we've started off with the Twitter account. Hopefully we can get more people to start going there. And with that, we will start to position people to come through support. And I think the beats, I think I spoke to Jesse briefly. The goal is to try and position people so that when they have questions or when they want to learn how to do something, they know where to go instead of ending up on Telegram or like some crazy place and they get confused. So that's that. And there was another problem that we were having, but I think Dario reached out to Aaron. I was a little frustrated because there was a customer that we were trying to onboard and it took 2 hours. That's how crazy the onboarding is for EOS. 2 freaking hours on Zoom because there are so many things. And one of the problems were what is voting, right? And what is staking and what is RAM? And people just keep asking, multi-sig, what does he do? And it doesn't stop. So I think, Aaron, Dario reached out to you, right? About also like how people are getting confused with the link. Because if they don't download the Gray Mass wallet before they try to create the account, then it's total confusion. Like they go in there, they create an account, then they don't know what to do. And that is also confusing people. So all in all, we're just trying to find a way to make it a little bit shorter or take some of the feedback from the community on what they're having problems with so that we can reach out to, Aaron, who's literally at the forefront of helping with the onboarding to see what we could do to, because some of these things I don't have answers to. I'm just passing on the information because it's difficult. There's no clear cut or magic wand that can fix all of this. It's just going to take time, but at least we are working on some of these things. What else? We are building a platform. We are doing that aggressively. It's very tiring. It's very challenging, actually. So for now, at least we are done with the voting system. It's completed. The smart contract is completed. We are working on the front end on how we can position your support in a way that people can just create like regular contests, right? For like 25 EOS or 50 EOS, community will vote on it using the EDEN filter, and EOS support is going to have a filter using port. We have already installed it, tested it. It works a little bit. It was good. So we use that to reward people. People can just reward regular content creators just to make it fun, just to have something for people to just be happy about. So we are testing it. We are working on that aggressively. And also we are working on a way to create a poll so that people can just create polls. We just want, when you are voting on the poll, you actually will get paid a little something, not too much, just to vote.
Yeah, like Lumios, the old Lumios app.
Yeah, something like that, so that people will be incentivized to do that, to vote on things. And we started the back end for the roadmap. Actually, this one I actually saw it from Aaron, and because I know people wanted like a roadmap, so I saw that Aaron was discussing with someone about a roadmap like IOTA's roadmap. So basically stole that idea. I was like, all right, cool. Why not? Let's have something like that. So we have the back end completed. We have to finish the design and come up with the front end so that we can have a place where we can update what's going on in the community, right? If we are going to have an update coming up, like Fractally white paper is coming up on the 22nd, whatever, we will have that so people can have a place to look at to see what's going on the EOS, and we can update it real time, because now EOS is a network full of DAOs being ran by the community itself. So at least it will allow people to see what's going on and to have an input on the direction of where we are going. So so those are the things that we are actually working on the platform. What else? Let me see. Yeah, I think those are the big things, pretty much.
Randall, where do you see most of the traffic arriving to EOS support from, would you say?
Most of the traffic is coming from Telegram and Discord. Like we have, we have squads and we have agents in these groups. So when someone is having like problems, we forward them through there, right? Yeah, that's where we get most of the traffic. Unfortunately, we are not getting anything from the EOS community website. I don't even think people go on that thing. Because remember, we have the code for the widget, so we are able to trace where the most traffic is, right?
Yeah.
People don't go onto EOS community .org. People don't go to EDEN on EOS as much as we think, right? I've had like 2 tickets come from EDEN on EOS .org, right? So it seemed like the websites that we have, it doesn't have SEO. So pretty much it's a wasted effort. It's just there. No one goes to it as much. But Telegram and Discord seem to be where everyone is going. But I think it has to do with the fact that when you go on CoinMarketCap, the people are being directed to the EOS project, right? So majority of the new users are going to Telegram. And those who need help with the development aspect of EOS, they are going to the dev Telegram as well. So I think that's how it's engineered at the moment. So I think with time, we probably have to start doing some SEOs, and especially if the ENF has his website up. I'm thinking about support eventually when things are ripe, because we are starting off, so there's a lot of things that we have to do. But once things are ripe, we will do some SEO as well, and we will do some marketing to let people know that EOS exists. There is support for it, and also the bees are going to help us as well, because once we have the referral system, which Josie, I'm hoping by next month, maybe we can start working on that. We can position it in a way that we can help people, whether it's going to be a chat or like calling them, FaceTiming, whatever that we can do to make it work.
Quick note on SEO. Even if, so our websites are not showing up, they're not ranking now, but part of the ranking is about longevity. So if you've had a domain online for 20 years, that is something that counts towards your ranking. So even though these websites aren't ranking now, that doesn't mean that they can't be ranking later. This is, I've worked on this type of thing for a few years. The best way to jumpstart an SEO ranking is to run Google ads for that domain. Google takes that into account. You pay Google, they're going to like you. And so when the time comes, I would be happy to help run some Google search ads for the domains that we want to be ranked high.
Yeah, when we have a conscious effort to create an actual funnel for people to enter in through, and we can kind of connect all these different domains together, I think that could be a whole other working group, because we're going to end up with so many different points of entry into the ecosystem, not only outside of EOS with EOS.io relit projects, but just within EOS, we'll have the ENF website. We're going to have the EOS. Well, maybe we'll get the EOS.io website at some point. Maybe we'll do our own. Maybe we'll do our own thing. That'll be, the more like the code base. Then there'll be Yeah, there'll be the Eden entry point. There'll probably be like another Fractally entry point. So there's just, and then of course, Gray Mass and all the wallets that are providing another separate entry point. At some point, these all need to be sort of looped together in a coherent way. So people, Joshua Seymour was always on like the journey of how people enter into something and the stages that they go through of discovery and learning. And it's going to require some design, I think, at some point. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're
So
still getting all the ingredients of the soup kind of prepped right now. So
yeah. So I think one thing that would be amazing is if we have like the EOS network DAO website, maybe we have like little circles with a very nice design with each DAO in there that people can just click on it and they just take you and port you to that website so that you can do what you have to do and you can come back. So that'd be very nice and interactive.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that sort of. I'm a very visual person, so any sort of visual navigation is really awesome for me, like showing a relationship of different elements and allowing people to
And how like
navigate
the
between them.
overlap, and, that'd be pretty cool. So I was thinking something like that. But at this point in time, we have a lot on our hands, so we try not to promise too much.
Yeah.
Right. So
For myself, just absorbed in the 10,000 foot view of ENF world mostly, and trying to get a grip on, there's so many moving parts between all the working groups and just all the conversations that are going on in the community, and producing some video, and it's extensive. I could just do this and only this and sleep and which I think everyone here is kind of like full in. So Aaron's like, fuck yeah. Sleep, what's that? So yeah, we didn't have any like real particular agenda items. I guess there was a few things we wanted to touch on. Maybe the Bywire article. No, that wasn't it. There was
We're gonna jump more into
Talk about that.
the Chris's DAO that he's working on, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So yeah, let's see. It's going to be a DAO formed of a community. All the details will be coming out on Tuesday, including a light paper with a website, with a pitch deck, sort of like all the details will be certainly front and center for everyone to see. But one of the things that I think is relevant to Eden is and I've mentioned this a few times, but this DAO will be formed of a 64-person max community, because we are experienced with elections. 64 is a really sweet number where you can have rooms of 4 divided 16 times. And then you have ideally 16 people come forward, 4 groups of 4, you end up with a final 4-person, in this case, it's like a committee or a board of directors of sorts. So it'll be a community using that political playoff fractal democracy process annually right now. So there'll be a starting committee, so starting deliberately centralized, so we can get this thing rolling. And the committee is going to be charged with the task of, so this is all about block producers and the idea of moving away from vote, trade, buy, sell, exchange, any of that type of stuff. So it's you can't actually stop it. This is what we all kind of realize. Anybody can make a backdoor deal, and there's nothing that can be stopped about that. But what the committee's job will be to at least ensure that the reward that a block producer gets, VPay and BPay in EOS, would go towards something that's beneficial for the ecosystem and the community. So I've introduced a lot of subjective things here, and that's why this is hard, but that's why there's a committee involved. So this is meant to have, this committee is meant to be people who have integrity, hopefully, who are trusted, hopefully, and they will have conversations with the BPs one-on-one, where the BPs will disclose aspects of their financial operations, and to basically kind of demonstrate to this committee that they are using their reward to go for salary, infrastructure, projects, developments, whatever it might be. And there's lots, again, ambiguity here to the max, because how do you prove that? And this will be hard. Like, you could just get lied to and the numbers could be falsified. And there's going to be a lot here that will make this difficult. That doesn't, but however, I think myself and many believe that this is a worthwhile endeavor to bring this type of BP selection and encourage a better use, again, subjective, but a better use of their funds, which is basically inflation, to go towards promoting and enhancing and growing the ecosystem. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot to that. And I think this will definitely stir up a lot of discussion, and some people aren't going to agree with this at all. And some people are going to think this is great. And, there's nothing we can do about that other than at least be willing to talk about it and not get mad at each other. Like, this isn't meant to be a FUD thing. It's meant to be, can we do better, quote unquote, to those who believe this is better for the ecosystem. So there's my monologue on that.
Very measured words. I like it. I feel like there's room for multiple approaches in this, grand endeavor we have going here. So personally, yeah, I don't think there's a mutually exclusive. There's definitely competing narratives and competing sort of visions, but I kind of think we're all working towards the same thing by different roads, so that's just me. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses on.
Well, and yeah, so we're on a permissionless chain. If a proxy wants to have certain criteria and they're able to convince people to proxy to that proxy, I don't see why anyone would be against this. That's what a proxy is. I mean, this is what this is. And so, yeah, I support this. I think it's awesome. Chris, what you said about the potential for fraud and people lying, it seems to me that if you're asking for proof that a block producer produces some sort of content or deliverable instead of buying for votes, can you not just, do you have the deliverable? Okay, can I see it? Oh, it's there. Okay, you're good. And if they're lying, then they didn't spend it on that deliverable, and therefore they would not be able to produce the deliverable.
Yeah, that's why this is all about a dialogue. The idea here is that we're going to talk, and it's like, it's not meant to be confrontational. It's like, just demonstrate. The other thing is there'll be a bunch of BPs who will participate. So we'll get to, it'll actually be kind of interesting. We'll start to be able to benchmark maybe some of the costs of infrastructure. And so that might be useful to other BPs. Hey, by the way, just so you know, what you're saying you're paying is actually, that seems a lot more. And so it might be kind of an interesting experiment that way. This is how, Aaron can likely speak to this. When EOS was first launched, there was a lot of BPs that did quarterly disclosures, not only about ownership. That was one of the things that was supposed to be disclosed, is who owns the BP, but also there was a financial reporting that was done. So it's just kind of bringing that back and having some organization that's really trying to just kind of push that along and encourage that information to come out.
Cool.
Indeed. So it'll be fun. I think it's like you say, Jesse, we're not breaking any rules. We're just, and there will be a bit of, like, the idea is for BPs that want to sign on to this, if they're currently buying votes, because that's the only way in EOS that you really can get ahead to a paid position. That's just the reality of it, for right or wrong. It's just the way it is. So there will be this kind of awkwardness. Well, I don't know, awkwardness is the right word, but it'll be a difficult thing to do, because at first this proxy won't have a lot of stake behind it. So if a BP was to be like, yep, okay, we're going to do that, we're no longer going to do any sort of vote buying, you're not going to replace those votes yet. The idea is that there is a large exchange, and they are going to be allowing their customers to opt in to put that stake towards this proxy. And if that's successful, this will be like an order of magnitude the biggest proxy on the network, and it could single-handedly pick the top 21 almost. So this could have a ton of weight behind it that will be enough of an incentive to have BPs who are kind of stuck in this limbo zone of, they still want to, they kind of have to pay for votes, to then do this. But what we've allowed is a 3-month grace period. So part of this is say, hey, sign a pledge that you'll do this and you'll agree to these kind of terms, but you've got 3 months to wean yourself off of what you're currently needing to do. And hopefully in that 3 months, we get enough stake behind the proxy that then makes that a smooth transition. So no one has to actually sacrifice part of their income to keep their business running. And then if it turns out after 3 months, we don't get the stake, well, you know what? No hard feelings. Then you don't have to commit. You can just kind of, no, sorry, we can't do it. Got to continue with the vote the way we're acquiring votes now to keep ourselves in a paid spot. And that could be that. So hopefully that'll entice a few BPs who are kind of stuck in this tricky situation.
Aaron is the only BP on the call. Do you have any comment on any of this?
I mean, there's a lot, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Just because, I mean, like you said, there's nothing. Doing this is like how the system works. Any proxy can align itself with any objective and try to use that voting weight to do what it is that they would like to see on the network. You know, it's a way to represent the token holders' voices. So yeah, I mean, when EOS started, this was kind of the original way I wanted it to operate. And so like it's public goods, it's not public goods, it's public funding that comes from block producer rewards, it comes from inflation. So if there is excess, then we've always believed that should go to public goods, that should go back into the network somehow, or at least help the people who are running the network survive. And like, we wouldn't survive with just EOS at this point, even with vote buying. I mean, I think last month we got 5,000 EOS. Like, that was our take home. That's what Greymass got from EOS. Like, is that enough to run a block producer that also builds a wallet and builds all this other stuff? No. But on the flip side, it's like, would a top 21 position even be enough at that point? And I don't know the answer to that question. So we're just in this crazy landscape where everything's changing at this point. And there's no harm in doing any of this. And like, I'd support these efforts. Like, let's try everything, throws everything at the wall and let's see what sticks. If this sticks, awesome. Like, super excited for it to stick. If it doesn't, we've seen some crazy things. So, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I said there's just so much. Like, you could take that and run 10 different directions about things that have happened and ways this could go. And it's just, man, it's a complex ecosystem here. And I'm glad to see we're experimenting on ways to make it better, like you said, quote unquote. Yeah. It's all subjective. So what I want the network to be is different than what other people want the network to be. And
well, I think
equalizing.
I feel like we're moving towards greater coherence, essentially, like across the entire network. And the coherence can be, you know, people that advocate for solution A and people that advocate for solution B, so long as they both have coherent solutions in their own way. And, you know, there's more of those, you know, units of coherent, like, nodes in the network that are trying to bring that level of organization. I don't see it causing more problems than solutions, essentially.
Yeah.
In the long run, because ostensibly everyone wants the best, you know, the best for the network. And it's a means and ends conundrum, really. But at the end of the day, we all want the EOS network to flourish. So
yeah. And I think for me as a developer, like, I look at things and immediately, like, my mode of operation is, okay, what's wrong with this? But at this point in time, like, I'm trying my hardest not to give that, because we need to try everything, you know, like, there may be problems. And if I can present something where I'm like, oh, this could be improved in this way, then I'll suggest that. But if I see a problem and don't have a solution, then I'm I will try not to discourage efforts. And that's not only for this proxy initiative or this DAO, it's for everything. So that's even like on the polar opposite end of this is like the legal stuff that's going on. It's like, okay, try it. As long as we don't get too far down some crazy rabbit hole. But we all need to try a whole bunch of things at this point, because this is a rebirth moment for the network, and we don't know what's going to work. So let's do it all.
You wrote something in the EOS Telegram main chat, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago now, that I thought was really awesome and on point, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but you were essentially saying that now is kind of a time to listen to each other and to take a step back, and that everyone's maybe kind of rushing in to try to fill the void that Block One left behind, but perhaps now is a good time for everyone to kind of like, yes, we need to get things done, but we also need to and then there's going to be stepping on toes, but at the same time, we just kind of have to have like spatial awareness of all the people that are rushing in. And
yeah,
I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. I thought it was a really good point.
Yeah, and I think that was mainly that was in response to the Dan poll that came up, and just like that critical view of what was going on for, I don't even remember what the subject matter was. It was, anyways, it's about just like letting some things happen. Let's try some things.
So it was about a guy called Fab. He wanted Dan to take a step back, because he felt like Dan is a little bit too selfish, that if the community wanted him to take a step back, he might not even take a step back, right? So it was along those lines. So Dan wanted to see what the community thought of the whole concept of maybe him leaving or being gone. So he set up a poll, which was a bad idea, because the poll was not very clear.
Poll.
So
yeah.
At some point, he had like about 80 voters, and he was basically in trouble. So Dan came back and started to talk about how the community is not responding or voting right. So at that point, there was an engagement, and pretty much people did not even understand, or they did not understood what Dan was actually asking. So
yeah, it was a really weirdly worded poll.
Yeah,
like,
so
is Fab right or is Fab not right? And it's like, who's Fab? What is this even about?
Yeah.
Where's the context? No context whatsoever. And Fab just sounds like shorthand for fabulous in a way. So you're kind of like, Fab. So Fab, yeah, like Fab all the way. What's not to like about Fab? So everyone's just voting without even knowing what the heck.
So it was it was pretty bad. So, and I think Aaron had a comment about that. Yeah. So
yeah, it's not a binary thing, and that was kind of the point of all of that was, it's not, do we want you here or do we want you gone? It's somewhere probably in the middle there. It's not, we don't need one singular leader. We just got done with one singular leader that just effectively ignored us for years. It's a chance for all of us to come together and lead this together. And when you say step back, that could mean step back from being the singular leader, and let other people lead with you. So the poll itself was just, it kind of missed the mark. It's not a yes or no answer. And if we all just we all take a little bit of a step back, somewhere in that gray zone in between yes and no, and we try to look at and support what everybody else is doing, then I think we're going to come out on top. It's like we have a lot, well, we don't have a lot, but we have some talent remaining. And we need to explore those ideas that have been percolating over the past, how many ever years it's been since we've thought one thing that should happen that hasn't happened. Now's a good time to try it. So somewhere in the middle. And sorry that we've tangented way off of the original idea and the feedback of the DAO that Chris is talking about. It all kind of ties together.
Yeah, no, it all
So,
ties. Yeah.
yeah.
Real-time
I thought-
experimentation.
Yeah.
I thought Chris was kind of done laying that out. So
Yeah, no, for sure.
that's
Yeah.
why I
We'll
pivoted
be able to
into-
talk more about it once the white paper's out, and maybe in
Yeah.
2 weeks now after we digest and talk about Fractally, because that'll be far more pertinent. But yeah, no,
did we have any other burning?
Yeah, hold on a second. I just wanted to add a bit to what Chris is working on, and that I think that's what the proxies were supposed to be, right? That each proxy is supposed to have a purpose. What are you bringing to the table, right?
Mhm.
And then based on, let's say, the stake that you have, will decide on who is going to opt into your proxy. Some proxies might not give any rewards, but they might have something that's very important to others that will make people join that proxy to provide some sort of like a public good or a benefit to the network. So I think this should be maybe a benchmark for most of the proxies. Don't set up a proxy and just leave it and go to sleep. Maybe you set up a proxy and promote it, get people to understand what you are doing, your purpose. Are you into providing yield for people who are staking for you, or are you into questioning what block producers are doing and the benefit that they are bringing to the network and things of that nature? So I think this is a new thing, a big question for all of us to look within to see if whatever initiative that we are embarking on is beneficial for the network as a whole. So it's something that I really think that we have to support, in that we want more businesses, more teams, coming up with initiatives to benefit the network. Yeah.
Yep. Well said.
I have a question. Since we've got this crew together here, I'm just something I've been thinking a lot about lately is, where are we not in terms of we're very internally focused right now, and I think we're kind of like the turtle that pulled into its shell, and we're like trying to reorient ourselves. And so the bees and support are very externally focused in terms of trying to keep an eye on where things are coming from, and new sources of community potential, like token holders and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I want to ask you this question. But where do you think we're not looking, in terms of where do we need a presence that we don't have a presence, in terms of outreach to non-EOS token holders? And then part of this is, I want to ask Aaron as well, because this ties into the onboarding friction that we have with wallets and stuff. And so in my mind, it's kind of going to happen in stages. Like right now, when I onboard somebody, I just create the account for them. And then I slowly onboard them. I teach them how to use Anchor. I teach them how to use a password manager. I mean, the whole deal. And then the final thing I do is I teach them how to change their keys, so that they're in when they can like walk and run, then they're on their own, and then they're free of me, But on the road to get to that point, so this is a bundle of questions, but it's partly like, where can we be reaching into now to bring in fresh blood from outside of the EOS bubble, and what can we reasonably expect to bring in terms of our onboarding now, and our onboarding 6 months from now, I guess. So two group question. we'll leave it to Jesse and Randall for the first part.
So, so for the first question, I think Jesse is doing a good job, and he's going to continue to do a great job in that. Pomelo season 2 is coming up, right? Pomelo season 2 is coming up, and he's going to raise a decent amount of money. So those who are watching this, make sure that you are looking up the bees, okay, to help with that initiative. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because if Jesse is able to get each hive to become an influencer group, and they have 10,000, 160,000 Twitter accounts, whatever that, they have Facebook accounts, right? Then he can pay these influencers and bees that are out there to drive home what is EOS and the importance of EOS and how it can change communities and eventually the systems that we have going on around the world. By him doing that, he will now position himself to bring on board so many new users who are going to be very hungry to learn more about EOS and to test it out. So once these people come on board, then support has to be ready to position them to onboard onto a DApp, to help them recognize which wallets are the best wallets, right? So that they can use that wallet and use it easily and flawlessly. Hopefully it's gonna be flawless by then, right? And if we do that, then we can reach out to more and more people, because each person that comes on board, if they like the experience and they participate in a community like this, which is working to provide a value to communities through EDEN and through some of these dApps that they will get themselves involved in, and also through jobs, because some people now have a job, real-time job. Okay, before they didn't have a job. Now people have real-time job because they are part of the EOS community, and the EOS community gives them a job, is giving them experience. Some people are learning leadership skills, how to be part of a professional society or group or community or company, right? It's valuable, so people will now stick around to be part of such a thing, and we will build an economy around this. So I think what we are doing, even though it's in the earlier stages, with funding, with resilience and focus, determination, we should be able to reach out a lot more to these influencers, and these influencers will bring on board more people, and then we will continue to grow one day at a time.
Yeah, well said, Randall. It's really all about influencers. This is my primary focus. So in the beginning, we have to pay crypto influencers, and eventually we're going to become influencers ourselves. The main accounts of the hives, the individual bees, some of the individual bees in the hives will become influencers. The analogy I've been thinking for a while of the best analogy, and I don't like war, but we are in a crypto media war. There's no doubt about it. And we basically did not train any troops. We just didn't have anyone, and we're just getting crushed like throughout the years. And so now I'm putting together an army, and we're basically like a Game of Thrones. We're like training the Rangers. We're on the wall right now. We're training the Rangers to go out into the haunted forest, and we have to convert the White Walkers into normal humans. Like this is the challenge. And so over time, as this is going to be in tandem, as there's more interesting dApps that come on, we're going to have a better and more attractive promotion offering. And so what Randall said about jobs, to me, it's more about these micro tasks that you can earn from. It's not a job. You're just earning from doing something very, very, very simple that takes a really short amount of time. I think that's going to be really attractive to people, and it's going to onboard them onto EOS. So it's just like, you want to earn some money for sitting on the toilet, or like reading a page of a book, or doing something really simple that you just already do throughout the day. Those are the kind of dApps that are going to come on. Like Pommel is a great one, a great example. You just want to walk around a little bit, you earn some crypto. And so these are the things. But yeah, so starting with crypto influencers and then becoming our own influencers. Hopefully by Pomelo season 3, I have an idea that I've been working on. I am planning to become an influencer myself. And I'm building a new brand. It's completely outside of crypto, but it's going to be X sponsored by EOS. So like I told my bees the other day, like, start a podcast, talk about anything. You like fishing? Talk about fishing, sponsored by EOS. And then, a little ad about EOS. And so not ready to talk about that now, but yeah, that's our strategy.
Very, very good. Awesome. There'll be some good clips from this for Chuck, I think, to pull out. Aaron, so when we ramp up this flood of people coming into the ecosystem, what are the stages of, you've been deep in the blue papers and you're deep in wallet creation, and Unicove is kind of in process and all this stuff. So I'm curious what you think are the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not intermediate, but the stages of onboarding. Like we have troops coming in raw off to use Jesse's analogy. We have people coming in like they just get like a tent in the forest, but then we want to improve on that at some point, so we upgrade to the next level, make it like a tavern with some mead and stuff. Like what are our stages? That's what I'm looking for. What's the staged onboarding rollout look like in your mind?
I think it goes back to kind of one of the things Randall said about the onboarding experience. I mean, he's mentioned it like 2 or 3 times on this call now. It's rough. Like the troops you're talking about, we're giving them tents with holes in it and with no floors, and we're not giving them a sleeping bag, and it's missing one of the posts. Like that's how people are being recruited right now, because there's not enough attention going into tent manufacturing. So we really, like, over the course of the next, I don't know, year or two, we really need to up our tent making game and make it so that soldiers, when they get here, are well taken care of, and they don't have to worry about all these other things. Wallets specifically kind of are one of those basic necessities that you need when you're participating in this. Once somebody new has a purpose or a reason, like some meaningful reason to use this blockchain ecosystem, they just need to be well equipped. And if you look at other ecosystems right now, they have like the groups that are building these basic things are funded with hundreds of millions of dollars. They have teams of like 20 to 50. They are providing this basic layer that allows people who have that meaning to come in and actually participate meaningfully without driving them away, without without having them desert the army, to continue this analogy. We have a lot of deserters right now, people that, and not in the negative way, you know, like abandonment or whatever, but they're just like, I can't tolerate these conditions, I'm gonna go elsewhere. So it's really twofold. It's a lot of people don't have a reason to join. Like you may hype it up, but then they're like, well, I don't have anything to do, so I'm not going to do it. They lack the purpose. But then when somebody does find the purpose, they lack the means. So it's going to be a long journey, really, to both build the purpose and the means, and we need to focus on both of them. And really, the purpose might be dependent on the needs. Like we may need some of those fundamental things to exist before we can really recruit people. So for me to kind of go to your stages or whatever, I imagine there's probably going to be about a year of really heavy introspective looking at like the tooling in the ecosystem and how do we make this better? How do we solve these problems? How do we make it so that they're not frustrated and wanting to leave? And during that time, how do we give them a purpose, like a meaning to be here? So they're both going to have to happen in tandem, but like we really need to look at tooling. I know I ramble about that a lot, but we are, I don't know, in this analogy, I don't know what the developers are. We have this army and we have what, the blacksmiths or something?
The smithies for sure.
Yeah, or the smithies. We don't have enough blacksmiths. So we really need to foster that, and hopefully through the efforts that are coming out of the blue papers and other initiatives, I don't want to just limit it to that, but it will create opportunities for developers to come in, whether that be because they're getting paid or because they're passionate or because they have an idea, to build those things that'll help bolster this ecosystem. So it's not going to be one group doing this. The papers hopefully will have a lot of people doing some of those things out of those. But realistically, like we might see some stuff, depending on when we start, the projects that are within the papers, maybe we'll see some of that stuff by like summer or fall, some initial stuff, some initial improvements. And then it's just going to be these stages of progression that we'll have to just continue to follow through and learn and adapt and keep evolving. So yeah, I don't know how to end that rant, but there you go.
I want to respond to something that Aaron said that I think I've heard other people say it, and it just so the idea is that there's not a ton to do on EOS. So therefore, if people are asked to join and there's nothing to do, that they won't join. And this is just not realistically how it's going if you look in the crypto market. If you look at chains and ecosystems where we want to be in a market cap perspective, if you look at DApp Radar, if you look at Blocktivity, we and other EOSIO chains are on the top of those metrics. So that implies that these other crypto ecosystems also have nothing to do, but yet the people are still there. They still hodl the coins. So it's not about, I understand that they're only going to hodl for so long and eventually it's not going to last, but we are underwater. We need some of that short-term belief. And what I'm about to get to, that it's not about things to do, it's about the story. People are hodling because of the story. And we have a great story that we can sell. And the story only lasts for so long, but just because it's short term doesn't mean that we don't need it. We need it because all the devs are underwater with our token price. And so it is very appropriate to start hyping now because we have a story to tell and we need people to buy into it.
Would say my only comment there is that it is not a fair comparison to compare to some of these other newer chains because they are in their chapter 1 of their story, which we've been through, and we see where it has ended up. It is like There's like a tragedy at the end of chapter 1. These other ecosystems are on their way to their own tragedy because nobody's actually using their product and they're just speculating on this stuff. We're entering chapter 2. So it's going to be different, and we can't expect that we can regain that like magic of the new thing. We actually have to provide value and utility to new people because we've already burned bridges effectively with a lot of the people that have moved on to these other blockchains. Those other blockchains are going to run into the same headaches we are, and we'll be having these conversations in like 3 years.
So
2 years.
Not all of the other blockchains are new and in their chapter 1. There are other blockchains that are very much in their chapter 2 that have a market cap that we need to get to. I understand your point. Totally point taken.
Both true.
Yeah, both true. Yep.
So John, you just stepped into the analogy framework scaffolding that we're using here is Game of Thrones, and you're a blacksmith and or architect or something or other in this realm. What was your take?
Oh, I was just going to say the worst thing a crypto project can do is go to production, is release, because you can ride the hype train so high and make all these promises and create all this bullshit. Bullshit baffles brains. So when you go production, that's when you actually gotta live up to your promises. And unless you cure cancer, chances are it's not going to go well. Another thing that happened was, again, EOS was successful because, again, simply just by hearing that EOS raised $4 billion dollars, people thought, well, fuck, a chain of $4 billion behind it, that's got to do well. Like, I'll get behind that. And then when it was discovered that this $4 billion wouldn't really go into the chain, then again it was kind of like an empty shell, and then no leadership. So yeah, I don't know, it's hard, but again, I don't think it's right to compare a chain that hasn't actually gone to production, and started producing blocks and started doing what the hell it's said it was going to do, between ones that are actually doing it, and new ones that can keep just dishing out bullshit and make new announcements and all that crap. Because again, it'll crypto is just speculation. Like, look at NFTs, speculating. Tokens are the same shit. So it's kind of like blockchains that haven't released are tokens that you want to that are pure speculation, because anyone can make up promises and shit like that. And then blockchains that are actually in production, actually doing things, are more kind of real. And then when reality sets in, the price kind of goes down with it.
Yeah, it's like Schrodinger's cat situation. Like, as long as you don't open the box, you don't know whether the cat's alive or dead, and you can just be like, believe whatever you want. Like, you can tell the cat turned into a tiger. It's fucking living in fairy tale land in there. You have no idea.
Doesn't it feel like we have a new box kind of? So you mentioned a rebirth, like it feels like we're kind of new again a little bit.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter a thing what we feel. It matters what the market feels, and the people on the outside feel, and they're not feeling angry. That shit.
We tell the story. That's how we make them feel. We tell the story.
They're laughing at us.
I would say another.
But I like the blue papers, because the blue papers are actually creating jobs, and with the money, as long as we have some money available to, fund some of these developers that are out there, eventually it's going to attract more developers to come on board, and I think that's going to help a lot. It's going to be massive. So I'm actually counting on the blue papers to really start bringing more attention and more developers to the network. Yeah, so I think it's just going to take a little bit of time for us to really make meaningful movement. Maybe by June, July, we should start seeing some action And by then, I think those who wanted to prove something would have at least have the chance to build what they want to build and prove what they are capable of doing. So by then, Jesse, the international marketing would have matured a little bit more, right? By then, your support will be more equipped to help people around, and Chris's proxy is going to be very matured to allow for Black producers who want to give value to the network to join in. And Greymass will be doing what Greymass does, and Fractally will be up and running. So I think we are doing the right things. We are doing the right things. There's nothing that we can do at this point in time. Nothing else. What we are doing is what we are supposed to be doing. So we should keep going at it and keep chucking along.
It's gonna take time.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things that are gonna take time. To go back to our Game of Thrones analogy, we're gonna probably need most of our blacksmiths to stop forging things and train new blacksmiths. Like that's gonna take a lot of time. Like I have like a new guy that started on Monday, and I've spent a lot of time just like throwing him in the deep end and was like, here's what you got to learn, and that eats up my time as well, which, you know, would normally be development or figuring something out. But it's like now it is, I'm training a new person, and we only have so much talent within the ecosystem. We're to reach the scale that I think we all want to reach, we need to train new people. We're going to need to take the people we have and pause what they're doing to train new people. And that's going to cause this to all take more time. So, I mean, I'm sure you have the same thing, Randall, as you're onboarding new support agents.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
Yeah. So
Mutually exclusive though.
What?
I'm saying, is it mutually exclusive? Can we not forge and train?
It depends, you know, on the size of the team and how you know, how many spoons you have to spare for your training of new people.
So maybe, Aaron, are you maybe talking about your team, like from the perspective you just shared? Maybe you were thinking about the Greymass team.
I think it's applicable to all teams in this space that are going to be.
So no more forging, all training.
Oh, no, maybe not 100% of people, but a good portion of people. If we had 100 developers today, it might be useful for 30 of them to stop what they're doing and train. Like that's a significant drop in production just because the audience is so small. And I'm just making up numbers. Those aren't real numbers, but that was just my point, is like the progress of things will be slightly slower because we need to train new people.
Yeah. So. And Aaron is actually, and Aaron, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you're actually talking about how a company expands. For a company to expand, the company actually has to go back, change its rules, its bylaws, its treasury. It's a lot of work, right? So right now what we are doing is we are engineering ourselves so that we can train new people, budget for new people, and prepare ourselves to make that big leap. So that leap is going to take time because, I mean, if you have to onboard 3, 4, 5 people, new people, it's a lot of work.
It's also finding the people as well, because if they're getting in the blockchain game, they got a lot of options to pick from, like, you know, what's going to incentivize them to pick EOS in particular, because career-wise, it's a lot safer for them to learn Ethereum, and you know they'll chances are they'll get paid more, and they'll be more in demand, and it'll be more, you know, secure job-wise if they just learn Ethereum. So
that's
why we need a better story, because that's the only thing that changes.
Right.
That
it's all about the story.
And I was going to bring up the whole pay thing. Like, you bring up an excellent point in that they could go to a more popular ecosystem like Ethereum, and they probably have better job prospects if their current job doesn't work out. Like that knowledge is more widely usable. So, and they'll make more money in that other ecosystem. So we're gonna have to make some sort of compromises, and like we're gonna have to like overpay people, we're gonna have to train people, we're gonna have like there has to be an incentive to pull it here, because right now all the incentives are, hey, go somewhere else, go to this other ecosystem, you'll have better future prospects, better training, more money, more equity, your company will be more successful. Like those are all true if you did not come to the EOSIO ecosystem. So it's super hard to find people, and you've got to lure them here somehow.
We just have to pay. We just have to pay people. I think
That's, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what Stan is banking on. The fact that now we are willing and we have the process in place to pay people, right? So yeah, that will really, really make a big difference for developers. John.
Which place are you? Which how are we paying people? Like through Eden or?
Yeah, Pomelo, Eden, Fractally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And external capital when we can get it, you know. I
Yeah.
think there's inroads being made there by various teams. So that's the saving grace if we can get off the you know, EOS doesn't have much inflation, let's be honest. There's, in terms of compared to other blockchain products, we have very low inflation.
Well, how much is on the next Pomelo? Like 888 grand?
Yeah.
Like in the scheme of things, that's not like a whole lot. Like, you know, a year, well, how much is a year's salary for a blockchain developer? Like a good one that knows what he's doing.
No, but we have a ENF, right?
Like,
funding, the ENF is going to be funding the blue papers too.
Funding the blue papers.
Yeah, so the blue papers,
proposals.
there are going to be budgets
But you,
for that.
But it's no, you don't look at the Pomelo, John. You look at the 2% inflation. That total number is going to go to pay people.
yeah, well, it's up to the UNF to make sure they put that in the right direction, and hopefully it's enough as well. But
yeah, they will. They will.
Definitely uphill battle.
Quick last point on training. You guys kind of made me realize one of the strengths of the bees, it's very little training. We are taking people that they're already good at. If they're content creators, if they're writers, or even if they're not good at anything and just can like and retweet a tweet. And so I totally can empathize and sympathize with the time it takes to train for Randall, what you're doing, and Aaron, what you're doing, because these are highly skilled positions. And we have a lot of low skilled positions on the bees. And so we can really scale.
John, I'm gonna bring you back on this. Are we going to build a website for Eden?
It depends how much of a pain in the ass it is to build a website. Like I can build one.
No, we are going to task you to create the Eden website, because no one came up to do this work, right? So I think it's just as important for us to get that done. You know, we need a very nice website so that we can really showcase it to communities.
Well, Randall, I think that once we all read the Fractally white paper, we're gonna have a conversation with Dan, and then we're gonna have a good idea of the future of Eden a lot better after that. So I think it's kind of hard to make a decision on whether to make a website right now for Eden.
4 more days.
Okay, fine. 4 more days. Yeah.
Then at least we'll have all the information we need. Right now we're like poker players, like trying to decide whether to bet on which hand to bet on. You know, it's like
definitely Fractally.
What, you're betting on Fractally?
Yeah, you better bet on Fractally. You work for Fractally.
No, but John, you're saying that you think that Eden will disintegrate into Fractally.
I hope so. Yeah, I feel like a lot more can be done with Fractally than Eden.
Yeah, but
And again, it's way more friendlier to the community. Like,
Yeah, if it's an
like
upgrade and it's got more.
in Eden, if you're not elected, then too bad. You're not really relevant for the next 3 months, or till the next election cycle. Whereas Fractally is a lot more dynamic. Like everyone can jump on board. There's no you don't need to wait for anything.
What's your level of confidence in Fractally that Fractally is going to solve some of the things that we're talking about right now in terms of onboarding, in terms of just renewed excitement within the EOS community and all this stuff that we need to keep moving?
I think it'd be great, providing the funding is there. Like Aaron says, you need to overpay. But yeah, if we have a good amount of funding, I think it would be a great way of attracting new developers, especially for a brand new way of getting paid as well. I think a lot of people will like that dynamic, and it's really fair as well. So yeah. And allows people people want to get paid, obviously, but they also want skin in the game. Like, they want shares as well, right? Like, you don't want to bust your ass for 20 years at a job and not have any equity in the company or whatever. So Fractally will be able to not provide equity, like legal equity, but you know what I mean. Like, it'll let you put skin in the game and be able to reflect that as well.
Cool. I'm excited. It's we've got multiple communities now trying to stand up Eden 1.0 in other languages. So it's the additional details can't really come soon enough, because I think it affects a lot of people, and it certainly affects us. So yeah, and I know Dan made some comments recently about that seemed to suggest that the chief delegates were going to be really important and relevant and just needed more funding and all this stuff, and Twitter, and that threw me back for a loop. I just never know when I wake up in the morning what's going to be coming down the pipeline on that front. But I don't know. I'm just waiting 4 more days, and then we'll have a much better picture. This was going to be a short call, John. Theoretically, we should have been gone by the time you got here, but
I thought you would be. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm probably done by now. Missed it, but
well, we should probably wrap it up. It's been 2 hours, or I guess technically we started pretty late, so it's probably like an
It's
hour
been
and a
90
half.
minutes for the recorded part.
Nice. I don't have any great parables.
Sunni?
I don't have any good Taoist or Sufi parables that are percolating up in my mind right now. So I'll come back with something more inspiring for next week.
I've got a quote.
Yeah. Yeah, bring it.
The
Someone
truth is
has-
like the truth is like poetry, and most people fucking hate poetry.
Yeah, well, there it is.
Ain't
I
that
love poetry.
Yeah, so why does the truth have to be so painful all the time?
Because we're pretty
That's
weak.
why people don't like it.
Especially these days. I don't
love-
think humans have ever been as intolerant of the truth than in today's society.
Oh, I don't know. I think
Well,
things
it's
have
because
always
the-
been pretty
the
intolerant.
truth is so ambiguous these days. So it's the problem is everyone thinks they know what the truth is. That's the problem.
Mm.
There are too many truths. Too many things passing as the truth, perhaps. Yeah.
Goes back to that binary choice in that poll we were talking about. There's more than two. There's both can be true, just like when Jesse and I were talking about the other things too. This world is not absolute, yet everybody tries to make it be.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it simplifies. It's much more simple when it's absolute, and people need to simplify this very complex world.
Well, especially when the world is, yeah.
It's likely not an accident though. Like if you look at social media, left versus right, pro versus anti, all of that, my opinion, is contrived and deliberate to divide us. It's not just our inclination to have two sides of everything. It's not at all. That's why we have conversations to
So
find.
it's the inherent desire to create conflict.
I think it's those in charge desire to have us create conflict amongst ourselves.
Oh,
But I am a bit out there when it comes to these wacky.
It's also just seeing other people cast opinions that then make you think that you should have an opinion as well. Whereas we saw that a lot less before sort of social media, and you're more likely to be like, shit, I don't know about that. But you know, so many people having an opinion about something, asking you about your opinion when you already even thought about your opinion, and then people just coming up with an opinion on you know on the fly, and then they kind of like stick with it as well. But also just, you know, words, like we're sugarcoating words now. Like there's words that we used to say, but then, you know, they sound too offensive. So now we're like going of nicer sounding words. Like there's a like sort of intolerance of you know, truth that we come up with the fake stuff. Like, you know, you can be a beast but healthy at the same time.
There's this.
so this is what I was thinking. Oh, Lojo, you want to say something? I was
gonna
say,
share a study, but please, you go first.
yeah. So there's one thing that I noticed growing up, in that when you are doing like math, right? Addition is very easy. Subtraction tends to be a little bit easy as well. When you get to multiplication, people start to have problems with that. Then you start to do divisions. And then once you get to probabilities, it's very hard for people, right? So why is it like that? It tells us that every time, or most times, that you have to use your reasoning or your cognitive function to think about things that is probable, right? Not everyone can do that. So there's a degree of understanding. In each phase of life, people learn certain things. So when you are given information, a lot of information, not everyone can use the information to estimate, to be able to use that information to determine a probability of something happening or not happening, right? So information can be there. The truth can be in between. It's all dependent on the expertise of the individuals or the people who have gathered. Because what I can see as truth today in my community might not be truth to me tomorrow, based on my understanding and my cognitive function at the time of how educated I've become, right? So this is the world we are in. So the information and being free can also be our biggest enemy, because sometimes we protect our young ones, the ones who are not ready yet. But when you make everyone free, or when everyone has the ability for the information and they're not ready to use the information, that can also become a curse for them. So we have to always look for the balance. And that's where we are failing ourselves, because it's very hard for us to see where the balance is. So the ones who are not ready for probabilities, multiplications, they are trying to do that, but they are not getting where they're not able to use it. And those who can do that for them until they get there, they are saying that, no, by me doing that, I'm actually controlling you. So figure it out yourself. And we don't know where the balance is.
You just reminded me the sad statistic that globally IQ is dropping year after year, and IQ is a measure of capacity for abstract thought. So The study I was going to share, this is kind of a depressing note to end on, but so someone say something after this, but I watched this, and I can't cite the study right now, but if you want, I can find it. But basically it was a series of subjects agreed to have like some sort of signal generating, probe inserted into their brain. And so like the scientist doing the study could essentially, by activating the signal in their brain, cause them to like turn their head. But it would be so, it was so, what's the word? It's, it was an involuntary movement essentially. So their conscious mind did not direct the movement of their head, and it was below consciousness. So essentially you had the subjects, and the scientists could press a button and they would turn their head to the side. And the subject didn't know that what the probe in their brain was doing. And then whenever the scientist would press the button and they'd turn their head, scientists started later asking, why did you just turn your head to the right like that? And in no case, or almost no, I don't think there was any case where the person was like, I don't know. They always created a story to justify, they post-rationalized why they turned their head. They're like, oh, I thought I saw something over there. Or I don't know, I had like a weird kink in my neck, so I just had to move it. My takeaway from that is that humans overestimate their capacity for, overestimate their capacity, or like the level at which they're operating at, just in pure consciousness, and not, we're really good at telling stories about why we did things after the fact that justify them. And that applies to, the discussion on truth, I think, in a lot of ways, that, once we do something, even if it's a wrong decision, we're prone to justify it no matter what. And then we're around a lot of other people that justify it. And we're better together in groups of like, then we get into these conflicts about, so.
Yeah, and I think as I've been listening to all of this, the one thing that I think underlines all of this is that people don't like to be wrong. And I think it's because we've been trained that it's not good to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of this could be solved if we just embrace the culture that it's fine to be wrong, as long as you learn what's not like correct. And I'm using a lot of subjective words here, but if people had the willingness to change, a lot of this would be a lot easier to shift around and improve things. But people don't like to be wrong. They don't like to be told they're wrong. They don't like to admit they're wrong, and they don't like to learn from their mistakes. So if we just destigmatized a lot of that, it would solve many of these problems. So I personally love being wrong. Like, please call me out. I said this in Telegram the other day. I was like, if you think I'm wrong, tell me, please. I thrive on being wrong.
Me too. Please tell me.
If you want to find out how wrong you are, just take a good dose of mushrooms, and you'll quickly realize you have very little idea what's going on in reality. It'll be so humbling that you'll, from that point forward, be way more open to being wrong, because, yeah, we'll shake the foundation a little bit. I think everyone needs a good foundation shaking. What did Bill Hicks call it? He had his third eye squeegeed. That's what he was talking about.
Yeah, because the thing is, we forget that whatever that we think is true today might be wrong tomorrow. You see what I'm saying?
You can't just latch on.
Yeah, it might not be the truth. So it's all based on the consensus that we've reached at this particular point in time, that this is our truth, right? So I normally tell some of the patients that I see, I'm like, listen, if we're in a village where they are eating people, that will be the truth for you at that point in time, until someone comes and tells you that, hey, listen, if you eat that kid, tomorrow that kid is not going to exist anymore. Then you go, oh my God, I'm stupid. Eating kids is not good. Then that becomes your new truth, right? Then you move on and then you develop a new sense of thinking, right? So Aaron, actually, I agree with Aaron on this one, right? If we all start to accept the fact that we might be wrong today, we don't know if we are right or wrong, then it's easier for us to reach consensus and to rebuild what we've accomplished today, right? Because then we are always working to develop, to rebuild on things and do great things. Because the more I'm thinking about life and the more I'm seeing patients, I've seen over 1 million people from different cultures. And sometimes it's sad for me to say that I feel like animals are a little bit smarter than we are. Because sometimes we do a lot of very interesting things. That's the word I would use. Because, you know, when a falcon flies and it goes to wherever it has to go, it's able to navigate its way back to its nest using whatever navigation that it has. How amazing is that?
To me, Randall, what I thought of that humans, I think, hurt ourselves more than animals hurt themselves.
Yes, we do. That's exactly what maybe I didn't put it right. That's exactly what I was trying to say. We've not just ourselves, now we are hurting the earth and we are hurting the water. We are hurting everything now. What are we doing? That is a
I
big
don't know, but if
question.
everyone just stopped, get the whole world to just pause for like 10 minutes at the same time, which will never happen. But if we could just sit in silence for 10 minutes, I think game over. We'd be on our road to happiness, but getting people to shut up that long is just near impossible. Everyone's like running the program so continuously. It's like, just stop for a second. But it's hard. Yeah, humans are uniquely capable of like convincing ourselves of things that other non-human animals could.
They would never do that, right? They would do
not
the
under
basic
normal
things,
circumstances,
right? They would do the basic things and they would do it right, and they would not argue about stuff, and that's it. But humans, we will find a reason to not do the right thing, quote unquote.
I don't want to like lay that tendency necessarily. Like there are things that we're prone to, but also like I think it's important to recognize that we're living in an environment that is super, I'll just hand wavy say unnatural, or like really high stress. We're in very high stress environments, and that's like affecting deep things about our biology and all sorts of things that you know, for the great portion of human history, we never had to deal with anything remotely on par with what we're collectively dealing with right now. So we're kind of at a huge disadvantage in terms of, you know, we're asking like Neolithic biology essentially to handle 21st century, you know, meta communication layers of all this stuff, and it's a big stretch. I think we overestimate our capacity in a lot of ways. So in the environment.
Thanks for your positive outlook on things.
I think we've got it made. I think we have all the solutions we need. It's just a question of you know, stopping long enough to realize what those are. I think humanity could solve all its problems tomorrow in an instant. So it's just really a question of will and ability for people to, you know, decide what they want. But, you know, loss of agency, I think that's a big reason why everyone's, you know, so hyped up about blockchain, is because they feel on some level like it gives them a agency that they haven't had in a really long time. It's like a collective dream of, you know, having some new collective agency that has been so thoroughly taken away from people for so many generations that it's really appealing. And yeah, the ability to just sit and reach an agreement among
Very, very important. Very important.
friends.
Yeah.
Like we get 6 people here that all are the product of this fractal democracy. That's encouraging, you know, and so I think
So,
we're on to some really positive things. I don't mean to sound all doom and gloom. It's like,
but one question that someone asked me today, and I don't have an answer to it, was that do you think that we have access to too much information or so much information that people are using that to weaponize others to do things that they're not supposed to do, right? That was, I answered it from my experience with certain things, but that's a very interesting question, right? That we have a lot of information and people have access to them, but are some people using that to weaponize others to do things that hurt society, right?
listen to the Robert Epstein interview on the Joe Rogan show where he talks about Google. He's a researcher researching how much Google search results change people's behavior, like predictive search, for instance. And there's 20, 30, 40 different ways that Google can change people's behaviors based on showing you different things in the search. And most people don't even think about it. Like it's not even doesn't cross their mind that they're being manipulated. Wouldn't, but they can, I can't remember the statistics, but yeah, Robert Epstein, you should really look it up. It's kind of terrifying, but it's also really insightful. But yeah, just by changing the search, the predictive search, when you start typing like Hillary Clinton, it'll say like is blah blah blah, or whatever. They can swing an election by something like 15, 18 points either way, just by changing predictive text results. You know what I mean? Like and they got caught in Georgia, like Epstein's team caught Google changing the results in favor of one candidate. And when they announced it and a senator brought it to people's awareness, they had to stop because they were being watched essentially. And Google's not used to being watched. They're used to being the watcher. So yeah, back to, yeah, of course, information's being weaponized. And that's another great reason for blockchain. It's like if we can have community sourced tools of, where we can agree on what is and is not, then that would be a huge benefit to humanity instead of like being led around. It's like Google's the new AOL, essentially. Back in the day, like you wanted to see the internet, you had to log in through AOL and they showed you the internet. It's like you didn't really see the internet. You weren't logging into all the sites that AOL didn't allow access to. You didn't see what you weren't supposed to see. So yeah, I keep trying to spin this in a positive way and you keep dragging me back into.
No, we're trying to find the balance. That's all.
Yeah.
I think the balance is in there somewhere. At the end of the day, I think this conversation comes back to balance, right? So you are balancing out the forces, right? So I think that's what this is about. At the end of the day, I feel some sort of way, but you've balanced me out for me to look at the outlook that humanity, we always overcome. We find a way to overcome, right? And then others share their thoughts and we keep balancing things out and we keep going, right? The laws of thermodynamics. we gotta figure it out. We create some energy, we don't destroy it, just translational motion. We keep going, good vibrations, and yeah.
I don't know. I don't think Aaron's beard is subject to the law of thermodynamics, though. So that makes me wonder. Makes me question.
Just keeps
reality.
creating.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. Tapped into some other energy source, like
It's
Not
my
fair.
antenna. It's I don't know.
Yeah, Aaron's tired.
Yeah, I am.
Well, this was a deep dive, and I think a lot of us need to eat dinner now, or supper, or whatever you
Mhm.
call it, where you're from.
Uh,
Supper or dinner? Last, final question.
Dinner.
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 Here in the Midwest, I get scolded sometimes for calling it dinner because that's the midday meal and supper is the evening meal. We have supper clubs, you know, like, but I always say dinner and I always get yelled at. So I'm right there with you.
People don't like to be wrong.
People don't like to be wrong. Thanks for looping it all back. And on that note,
Adios, guys.
adios and go Eos.
Good years.
Oios.